We are freaking out the neighbors, my friends. Who keeps yelling into their microphone every morning? What on earth are they talking about? Well, we are back. Welcome back from a beautiful sunny sky as we sail through the clouds. The Pirate Ship in the Sky, Artist Journal, January 7th, 2025. Broadcasting from inner space. My name's Adrian Pocobelli. Staring off into Martin Bruce's brilliance. Martin Bruce. You know, I think Punk6529 put out that thread, was getting a lot of pushback. I was pleased to see, because it was kind of, it reminded me of the Taschen book, where it was like, this is it. This is it. I think he said, we need a list of the most important artists, and we could put it together in a month, and then, like, that'll be the list. And, I thought to myself, this is someone who's never made art before. And so doesn't understand the randomness, the vicissitudes, the who knows whatedness, the mystery, I dare say, of art. And yeah, if you're looking for people, here's another one. From outside, I would say, of the Ethereum mainstream, although has made some pretty good sales. I think made half an ETH, maybe an ETH even, which is pretty significant money for those that are, and for those that are not familiar, that's about, give or take whenever, like ETH's about $3,500, let's call it, 4,000, 3,500. I haven't looked in the last couple of days, but so significant money. So half an ETH would be $1,700, but maybe it was in the bear market, so maybe it was 600 or 800, 900. Anyways, it's sold well. I'd say his cult collectors out of Portugal. If I recall correctly, we had Martin Bruce on, I very proudly say, and it was one of our best spaces, on the Wednesday live space, Artist Journal Live, as I like to call it. And just a totally fascinating artist. As I always say with Martin Bruce, he thinks with his eyes. And what I mean by that is during the space that we had with Martin Bruce, who is this artist, and let me just actually give you the title, Advanced Worm. I love it, on Rodeo, which turns out is 17 cents, not 30. We'll get into that in a second. But who, as I was trying to get to what Martin Bruce is doing in this space that we did maybe 4 or 5 months ago. You can probably find it if you dig on X. I still have over a year of spaces since October, a year and 3 months ago, that I need to upload to Spotify. I'm a one-man show here at this point. So that is why there is a delay there. I may actually create a second channel, actually, for just the spaces, because if I upload, 60 YouTube videos of the spaces, that's kind of going to screw up the feed. And then all of a sudden it'll confuse new people and everything. So I may have to make a second channel. Maybe I'll put like clips on it too, as I think out loud here. But back to the space with Martin Bruce finally, because this is crucial to understanding, I would argue, Martin Bruce's work. From my perspective, is we were discussing for and I think 45 minutes into the conversation where I'm trying to figure out, what are you trying to do? I think I asked him that maybe a couple of times. And finally, I came to the realization that Martin Bruce, so as far as I remember and understand our conversation, works intuitively. So there's no I am doing this. He's thinking literally visually, it's easy to gloss past that way of approaching art. And of course, all artists think visually to a certain degree, you could say. So what does this mean? I'm saying most artists come with a plan, right? Even if it's a loose plan. Even Waffles, who, with all the sketching, there's generally a bit of a plan. It's like, okay, maybe today, I'm assuming, okay, today let's do a stand-up comedian, or even while it's being built, it's like, oh, this could be a stand-up comedian, right? And that's that kind of setting. Whereas Martin Bruce, who is both works with representative and abstract. Importantly, I would argue approaches the visual creative process purely, I would say, intuitively, in a way that I would argue few of us do. And I think that's what you see here, because you kind of go, well, what is this, right? And it's okay, I think it's called Advanced Worm, if I'm not mistaken, Advanced Worm. So a worm and this is, Martin Bruce, it looks like a thing that's repeating. Maybe it's a brush, probably, like a sampled brush, right? With shading on it, I might add. So it actually looks three-dimensional, and in a weird way, I'd say that's kind of harder to do than it might look. So I think, and really what it is probably two different sampled brushes made to look like volume, perhaps, right? And so dragging it across, right? Let's imagine, and kind of letting the image, having a dialogue with the image, but again, not being there's no wording here, is I guess what I'm trying to say. A lot of us maybe what I'm trying to say here is a lot of us come to our art, and forgive me, not much time today and just kind of ran out of the shower and hit record here. But a lot of us bring words, is what I'm trying to say, into I'm going to do XYZ. I'm going to do a TR-808. I'm going to do pixel art work. I'm going to do, and maybe, I'm sure Martin has some words, but I would say he has fewer words than almost anybody, I would suspect. And maybe there are none. He may just go, la, 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 and be thinking about completely different things, for all I know. Again, he thinks with his eyes, is how I like to describe Martin Bruce's work. And so it's beautiful. So there's something, so there's a magic to the work, as you can see here. Going for a mere 17 cents, as I was saying. And even this beautiful yellow to dark red, a very satisfying, I think, and even the brown, it looks like a off black, sort of matte black, sort of brown background even, right? Almost like one of those cool shirts you'd see, something like 1970s shirts, right? That you might see. You see this brilliance here. Again, this is nothing you could English. This is nothing you could, or if you're in Spanish, Espanolish. This is something that is done with your eyes. These are ideas that happen through the creative process and seeing what happens, putting things down, and there's a visual dialogue, is what I'm saying here. Even the repetition, but it's a different kind of repetition. It has its own logic. It has a visual logic. It does, this isn't random, right? This isn't random. There may be chance involved. I suspect there is. Nobody plans this. There's actually probably a lot of chance, but there is clearly thinking at work here, right? And there's clearly contrast. There is this, but again, and maybe part of it is kind of a struggle to discuss this too much, other than the formal elements. Okay, this almost looks physical. And I was talking to Martin in that space, who goes back and forth between physical and digital, will take pictures. I remember asking, do you ever take pictures of the screen? Yes, of course I do. And it's and I think I said, of course you do, right? Being the kind of artist that Martin Bruce is. So kind of, again, a massive talent. I would argue one of the most talented people. You want your list? 6529. This is one of the most, in my opinion, for what that's worth, one of just an incredible talent here. Going again and working in both, and working very, diligently in the physical world too. And I don't think I'm alone in thinking that. So all to say, beautiful. Look at how beautiful this is, right? In a sense, I can put all the words you want on it. The work is still the work, and that is kind of part of the magic and the beautiful textures. And we see a little bit of representational stuff there, and it's almost like this whole distinction between abstract and representation. that most of us have, like, oh, I'm going to make an abstract work. Like, those are just more words for Martin Bruce, from what I see. Those are just words. This isn't about words, right? This is about this. And all you can really do is point to it. Let's leave it at that. So 67 mints, just 14 hours, so 8 hours ago, was listed Martin Bruce on Rodeo. So very cool there. And we're going to get back to Rodeo, of course, the topic of the moment. Coming up tomorrow, I'm really thrilled to have Noah Pred of Metamedia, who I tried out. I know Noah from Berlin. He now lives in Portugal. And he has this very cool artist tool where it's basically you can have a mint, but it's got different layers that you can turn on and off as part of that object. So this kind of experimental, way of approaching the NFT, the digital art on the blockchain, and how basically you can kind of turn on different layers in a piece, which I find super interesting. Again, this is something, just add it to the list of why it's exciting to work in digital, right? Just another way of innovating. As I always say here, we're scratching the surface here. We are in the early innings of digital art, in my opinion, because this could have, this could go on for, frankly, I don't know if millennia might be an overstatement considering how fast things are changing, but this could go on for centuries. Or decades for sure. I think we could say, I think we're still early. So that should be a good one. It should be interesting. It should get you thinking outside the box a little bit. Thank you. Nice response here. Considering I'm putting out, shows daily here. I'm very, thanks for the great response. This is pretty good. Sonzo, great to hear from you. Prominent ETH account. Appreciate your thoughts here. Good work. You're welcome. Thank you. DJ Kiro, yeehaw. And so Kiro, longtime watcher here, great artist. I think we had some work on that show by Kiro. Lucas Andrade, GM, good to hear from you. Absurdity. Hello, Adrian. Wonderfully balanced and nuanced discussion of Rodeo. Thank you. I am doing my best there. Very much appreciated, and very quickly, for those kind of longtime viewers of the show, you may remember what I try and employ as much as possible is the charity of interpretation, is what it's called. That's kind of like ancient Greek philosophical thinking, which you find in Plato's Crito, the dialogue after the Apology and before the Phaedo, that little trilogy on the trial and death of Socrates, where the way to build a credible and an argument that where you're actually trying to get at the reality of something is to give, to a certain degree, the opposing side as much of a credible argument, as good of an argument as you can give it, if you're actually trying to get to the reality. Because, as Socrates says, if I'm wrong and you help show me I'm wrong, that's a benefit for me. Because I want to get to reality, says Socrates, and I agree. So it's not just about being right. I mean, why did all these guys ultimately want to put Socrates to death in the Apology for those who have read it? I'm sure most of you have. And if you haven't, you should. Kind of easy intro work. He's saying basically, he's basically punching their egos. And then they didn't like that. So let's continue here. So I appreciate you mentioning that, Absurdity. Very much appreciate hearing your thoughts about a platform that has generated both excitement and disdain. Yeah, wonderfully put. I also very much appreciate your featuring my art as both an artist, and that work here is beautiful work. As both an artist and collector, I find it fascinating to learn what others, such as yourself, find compelling in my art. Truly, I am not only a better artist for it, but collector as well. And indeed, I always say, collectors should make art, and oftentimes they have. In the past, oftentimes they are artists, that's why they like art and are interested to begin with. But for those that haven't, some aren't, and I always suggest it's always like take an art class because you'll learn It's kind of back to the words. There's only so far words can get you. right? It's almost like it's the same. There's only so many things you can learn in a textbook. And ultimately, you have to go out in the world and experience things and to really learn, right? And art's definitely, it's an applied, it's an applied thing. Like, it's a practical thing. It's physical. It's not math, right? I encourage all collectors to play the artist, absolutely. And by play, I do mean just enjoy and create in a private sandbox of joy. Indeed. Mint if you desire, but the very process of creating art is something that should not be lost due to insecurity, imposter syndrome, or embarrassment. And another thing I would say is it's never been a better time to make art as a collector, to be able to bridge that gap. Because the tools now are so exciting. There's a new tool every week. You don't need to know how to draw. You need to have a sense of balance, and you need to practice until, like, it's not as easy as it looks to make a nice artwork. But with time, like, in a sense, like, if you have an appreciation, and if you look at the history and everything with an open mind, you'll probably start to get somewhere. Put it this way, it's never been easier. Just like it's never been easier to make a website with these, like, AI tools, right? Let's continue. Tying back to Rodeo. What an absolutely wonderful platform for the artist at play to share their joyful works with the world. Worst case scenario, one is no worse off than on Instagram or X. Views, likes, but no money. But who knows, at 35 cents, some might even be willing to toss a bit of coin one's way, further encouraging the fun. As I wrote in the comment, I totally agree about the, collectors should make art, but also, I guess the concern with Rodeo is that this gets normalized. Right? That all of a sudden 35 cents becomes the normal, but wait, it's not 35 cents. Speaking of coin, you've mentioned multiple times, Adrian, that the artist is getting about 30 cents per mint. But after Rodeo fees, it is actually only half of this, so roughly 17 cents at current ETH valuation. So it's getting pretty low, and that was actually my original. Again, I was trying to be charitable, and let's say, like, I was guesstimating. What I originally remember is 17 cents, actually, and I probably should have stuck with that for accuracy. I was like, okay, maybe it's more than that, So for most artists, it is not generating anywhere near the revenue that the art might on object. But as you've stated, it's a different dynamic with potentially non-competing goals. Yeah, well, brilliantly put there, Absurdity. I'm going to have Absurdity on the show, actually. On the spaces in late January. I think it's January 29th, if I'm not mistaken. It's a Wednesday. So we will discuss that further on the space. Thank you for the comment, and thank you for correcting me on that. AK Dell, great as always. Great to hear from you, AK. And actually, we have a work by AK Dell of Bologna, which is awesome. Coming up this episode, Human Boy. Great episode. Happy to see Yakim 1987 in today's episode. So Yakim 1987, for those that are wondering, is the person that did kind of the sci-fi illustration, the woman with two heads, and then there's the guy kind of looking over top. Very cool work. I'd never seen their work before. Not sure if I've seen you review their work yet. And I'm not doing reviews, by the way. I am talking about art, but I put it this way, because I often get it, and I've kind of given up on correcting it. Maybe that's what they are for the rest of the world, and that's okay. But yeah, for me, it's just kind of highlighting and discussing the work and why things seem to be working. It's different because, as we saw from the Ongo AI thing, like, that's what most art critics are doing. They're saying, oh, the brilliance of the blah, 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 and the color. And I guess I'm saying that to a certain degree with Martin Bruce, but I'm taking an art. This is an artist journal, so it's an artist approach. And I know it's probably lost. This is a distinction that's probably lost on almost everyone except for myself. But yeah, so anyways, if you aren't familiar, definitely worth a look through their object. Yeah, actually, thanks for letting me know. I had no idea that Yakim had an object. Cool. Bert1, cool artwork and journal. Interesting point of view about Rodeo and Market 2. Thank you, Bert1. Great to hear. Dropkick, great to hear from you. Hadalo Cowboy, nice, thank you. And Muscat, I think this is AI. Everything looks the same. I don't understand the hype. Followers, yeah, I think this is AI. Let's continue. Renniefish, thank you for featuring Pocobelli. I used to put my work in progress on Rodeo because I feel it's fun, important to see the process of the art. This time I decided to launch something new there called Bug Bites. Also could be a testing ground, but Object could also be a testing ground, couldn't it? This single character collection is going to be fun. Hope you guys enjoy collecting, eating them. And of course, Rainy Fish has her works that are on Object, so maybe it does make sense to put this on Rodeo, because her works, sort of like we were describing with Lorna Mills, right? Having these grand works with multiple gifts on them. It's kind of the same thing with Rainy Fish. So what happens if we take one or just explore one? Beautiful work, Toast Bug. And I even love how it's almost written like JavaScript here. There's a word for that kind of writing. Anyways, thank you, Rainy Fish, and great to hear from you. Unknown Collector. Supporting artists where the money goes to the artist and not 50% of a few cents to the platform. And yeah, so this is kind of back to Absurdaity's point. I didn't realize, or at least maybe I forgot, I didn't realize clearly that they were taking 50% of the mere, 34 cents. So that should also be kept in mind because, again, you think of Object. If memory serves, I think it's 2.5%. I think it's 2.5%. I think Super Rare, I think is higher. I think it's 10. I don't know what Foundation was, which is, of course, the same organization as Object. So it is kind of interesting. It is a lot. It's pretty high. And highlighting some Tezos works here. This was interesting. Brian Brinkham. Nobody wants to hear it, but this is probably the best long-term art investment play at the moment. So I'm not so sure. I mean, the market is not celebrating this. I put it this way. I remember this being about 10 to 14,000, and now it's probably about 2,000. Or, sorry, 4,000. Let's call it 3,500 at about an ETH here. So it's down. It's an interesting question. I'm not so sure because they're photographs of paintings. So I'm kind of iffy on that. I think if you got, originally when Damien Hirst put out the currency, in the first year you could decide if you wanted the physical. I think the physicals, that was definitely, get a physical painting by Damien Hirst, that was definitely worth getting. This is I think is a very open question. But it's an interesting point, and salute Brian for highlighting something that people aren't paying attention to. This was exciting as heck. Look at this. So Strano, look at how good this pixel art work looks by Michael Micasso that I think Strano is executing with a pen plotter. And I have to say, this is a pretty good solution for turning your pixel art into physical, is it not? This is a nice solution. And it's kind of weird how, I kind of knew that. We've looked at probably 100 pen plotting videos over the course of this, maybe 80 or 60 over the course of this show. But this is kind of really highlighted how good, and again, it's not perfect, which is also good. There is a little bit of bleed. It's not perfectly crisp. And so you see how, you see the alchemical transformation when you go between mediums. There's something to be said as a digital artist, quote unquote, as an artist, turning your digital works and making them physical. Finding the right solution. It's not easy. You could also do a screen print of this, but I think I prefer the pen plotter. The pen plotter seems a lot less, I would argue, laborious. As long as you have your plotter, what is this, an A3, I'm guessing? A2 max, but I think that's an A3. Put it on your little tabletop pen plotter. Pretty cool. And you could even go multiple colors. Don't need to worry about well, you probably do need to worry about registration. I still need to use a pen plotter. Anyways, let's continue into the works. Yuri J. So putting out a few works here. This is called, I think, Stool. So let's see. Kind of looks like a table, actually. This looks like a table and no, this is a stool. This is a stool, of course. And here you have maybe some washing product, some household items, a rose, and these beautiful textures. Doing this domestic scene, even a little bit of a border up here, kind of, and you see the painterliness. another artist for the list here. You see the painterliness, and look at each individual little mosaic, how it's been kind of, probably by just putting something over top and then masking, all of a sudden everything looks kind of like a multicolored, jeweled floor here, and a little bit of mosaic filter for good measure here. And kind of like we're seeing like these kind of light stripes as kind of a recent addition, I think, from Yuri J. Almost a beautiful compliment to the bed. To the chair that kind of started Yuri J season 3 months ago. Look at this, 200 Tezos, one of one. A beautiful compliment to that work. And it's interesting, still available. You do see how things have quieted down on Tezos a little bit, but really, for the hardcore collectors, that's more just opportunity, because all of a sudden, should Tezos pick back up, which one imagines at some point it will, all of a sudden works like this. So $289.50. Tezos price still doing quite well. Edition of 1. Here's another work from the Outlines of Our Lives, bedside table, Yuri J. And here a bedside table, of course. And here another kind of classic technique, moving the outlines over, kind of shifting things over a bit. You see it here with the knob moving over. And this wonderfully painterly background. Again, digital art, a JPEG, and just full of surprise. And that must be a hat, right? So just beautiful execution here. And they're selling, and 5 gone so far. Only an edition of 10. Chair by Yuri J. So I believe this is the final one of the series. And you see just how it almost has a kind of, like I'm looking at the background here. Almost kind of like this Monet-like brushwork here. Even though it's probably not a brush, it's probably a pattern. I have no idea. And then here, stretching things out. Here we have, again, with Yuri J, as I always say, effects on effects. Here, moving things over a little bit. Really nice original technique that Yuri does here. You see it here, maybe changing the layer style to like, I don't know if it's multiply or screen or whatever it is, right? And just adding, and then here you got the mosaic, the signature mosaic. Here, a little bit of noise, diffusion. Beautiful. Look at the light switch. So it continues to be exciting and interesting here. And look at this one. How many are in here? 20, 4, 6, 8. So half gone. There's Uxine picking one up. Hasdrubal Waffle continues to dazzle here. 154 with 13 minted with 13 hours left. And let's reduce the size here. So here we are again. And what is the title on this? Nantucket Streetwear. And I vaguely remember that word, but I don't remember what it means. Here's Snoopy. Here is all sorts of interesting things. So who knows how to English this work? To quote Terence McKenna, to English the work. So all to say, it kind of looks like a Christmas work, doesn't it? I see some Christmas trees in the background. I love the composition. I have to say, it is worth noting of this guy or this person lying across here, the heart's where the heart is. And again, just this whimsical, kind of almost making it look so easy as if waffles can do anything. And it's just kind of fun, and it's all coming together for Hasdrubal Waffle, isn't it? So here's another one, different program, and just a couple of people maybe smoking or lighting their cigarette with each other. And here you see some black smoke, so to speak, and probably a different software. Looks like maybe just using one software, probably an online software, but not necessarily. Often uses web browser type softwares, but not exclusively. Here's another one. This is 125 minted. Pretty obsessed with your work, Ashira. That's great. So here, again, I always say, I don't know how Waffles feels about that. I always say Basquiat. This is just another example. The doodle style. And I don't say that because there are a lot of people that copy Basquiat. This isn't copy. This is like in the spirit of, this is the doodle style. And so, again, interesting kind of fill here. It looks like the green fill came afterwards, that this was actually a lot busier, and then that maybe just like a paint bucket was put over top of this and filled things in. And maybe that finished the work. More interesting work as ever. It's like Waffles. It'll be interesting to see works that seem like, will we ever see works that don't seem to work anymore? Or have we all just been kind of, or at least myself, been so convinced by Waffles that Waffles can just do anything here? This looks like some copy and paste going on here in this white. You see the little outline there. Interesting, almost playing with those bones, but it looks like an alien. The alien is doubled, just kind of doing anything. And it seems to work. Nice little red border there. It's very cool. Here's Zesis Bliatkas, who I'm thrilled. Actually, I heard from Zesis and it was great to hear from. This is like one of the big oversights I've made in this show, is not showing more of. I did show Zesis's work, but I don't think I showed as much as I could have. Let's put it this way. So trying to make up for lost time here. So again, Microsoft Paint, it's because it's challenging work. So it's not as easy to, figure out. It takes time. It's like NUV 1914 took time. So more just super interesting work, different kinds of kind of pixelation here, as we see in this edge. I guess it's all Microsoft Paint, maybe different brush marks. I'm not even sure. But what I do know is it's pretty darn interesting. Nice little stuff like that. This painterliness. I'm kind of a big fan of that. And just kind of mysterious too. Like, what is this? A cloud? I think so. Let's see if we can see the title. And let's see. Cloud. It is a cloud. That's a pretty cool cloud. Right, pretty original. 38 minted only, so still available. I need to make sure I have that. Zwozo, Silver and Wild Horse and Flowers. So Zwozo, another spectacular artist in this scene. Let's see what happens here. So I think I see the flower on the left, the horse on the right. Very cool, right? Very interesting. Nice little addition of color at the end there. And so just more interesting, challenging work. Love it, though. Great contrast between, say, the silvers, which kind of remind you of Nuv's silver works. And I think they're both out of Buenos Aires. I think they both know each other, from what I understand. So you see, again, made of gradients here, but different kinds of gradients. And so a horse and a flower, almost that bifurcated composition. It almost looks like a collaboration. I think they're, and anyways, that's why I always show them together, because they go so well together. NUV 1914, Calais. So more interesting experimentation from NUV. Look at this, playing with this kind of hard drop shadow style. And then here, playing with different textures too. So this is on object, edition of 1, sold for 15 Tezos. Very cool work. And you see how they're starting to grow on you? These tricky drop shadows. It's quite interesting how that works. Rural Idol picked this one up. This is an edition of 1, only 10 Tezos. And nice kind of minimal work here. Here's a figure and what looks like maybe a tree. And then just some kind of interesting black and white gradients, almost a little bit of like a relief sculpture, a little bit of volume there on that work. And here's on Rodeo. Tus Dientes, a little bit of Spanish, not sure, only 8 minted. Nice kind of small work here. And here, beautiful. Look how interesting these works are by NUV, which might not ever be minted otherwise, right? So another interesting kind of experimental work. Again, playing with this kind of hard drop shadow that you see here, putting some gradients inside. Very interesting. Look at this too, Tukara. And, you see the interesting experimentation of Martin Bruce. NUV 1914, Zwozo, all those works could easily go in a show together. I think they'd be kind of seamlessly. Here again, you see the drop shadow, but here there's a bit more distance. So it seems like Nuv is working with drop shadows here. Seems to be what's going on. Interesting experiment on this one too. Again, very challenging. Cool work. And how many are minted here quickly? Only 5 minted. I think I picked one up. Here's another one, Kalkov, artist I haven't seen before. This is on Rodeo. I think I saw this in E-Boy's collection, who is also on Rodeo now. Let's see here. So interesting. Kind of looks like a cityscape a little bit. Do we have a title? Or is it an abstract? I'm not sure. Dichotomy, urban vibes. So yeah, probably like a bit of a cityscape here if we needed to put a word on it. Rhombus. This is Santiago Ruao on Rodeo. So another cool abstract here from Santiago Ruao. I mean, at 17 cents each, yeah, like, I mean, you're looking at $2. So I think eventually, like, in a sense, you know, I was thinking to myself this morning, like, Rodeo, as long as the volume, as long as there's more and more collectors and it keeps growing, it's good for the artists, right? You could argue in the sense of exposure. You can make the exposure argument. You know, we're talking about, is there a bounce on Tezos sales from putting work on Rodeo? But once that growth, should that growth stop, then what? And then all of a sudden artists are going to, you know, what will they do? One imagines they'll want more for their work. So as long as they're getting something out of it, it's kind of, it works. But so as long as things keep growing, it's going to work. But at a certain point, one imagines it might not. Amelia Versace, day one. This is from, I think, about a week ago. Hand-drawn, frame-by-frame, digital animation. Amelia Versace, 22 minted, cool, abstract here. Basically, animated, abstract, cool, simple GIF here. Nice colors here, nice kind of dark blue, contrasting with the red, all beautiful. Milaya, Holy Drift, with this kind of crazily mysterious work here. Here we have what looks like a sports car and maybe some sort of tattoo-like pattern design, and the cross. So, and a crucifix. So pretty. What I love about Milaya's work is how consistently, and I use the term in a good way, how consistently weird it is. Put it this way, strong juxtapositions, as we can see here. 46 minted, so that's awesome. And so anyway, just super interesting work here. Seba Sestaro, memory number 15. So this is on Object, and this was sold for 80 Tezos. Nice sale to Cypheristical. We'll look at the name there in a second. Very nice. And of course, Seba Sestaro doing work for all sorts of publications as an illustrator. Cypheristical picking it up for 80 Tezos. Nice work. Katerina Create, Flower 1, first Rodeo. So this just came up yesterday. 205. 205 mints here. And let's see. And so basically a kind of Katerina Create figure, maybe a flower for a head and a little bit of animation. Cool animated shoes there too. Great piece. Love the distorted figures. The Myth and Skittles. This was awesome. The Myth continues to dazzle with these kind of like, I think we saw the ice cream Oreo sandwich. We saw like the Pikachu. So these kind of pop art references with the Myth in them really just kind of, there's good humor here. And they're beautifully executed, like just kind of really original works here. Here is Walk with Frog. So this is a digital artwork, probably referencing some sort of pop culture reference that I know not. But anyways, you can kind of see the frog there, the eyes and the mouth. So cool there. Continuing on, AK Dell. And so AK Dell asked me if there's a city I'd like to see. So here it is, Bologna. And here it is, and I think I know where this is. I didn't go to this part of town the last time I was in Bologna, but I'm pretty sure I know where this is. This is a little to the side of the center. There's a really nice, I think I recognize this restaurant here. And I think there's something like right here where the viewer is. Beautifully executed sky here too. So nice dithering, nice pixel art, done I think in a day. And this is on nice border there too. This is on object for 60 Tezos, 1 of 1. Very cool. Here's Gio Mariani with some more kind of avant-garde pixel art here, as you can see. So not sure if this has been minted or if it's an older work, but interesting, isn't it? Continuing on, Françoise Gamma with another work here, her 8 mints here on Rodeo with a cube, kind of pixelated. And I think that was the only one from Françoise for the day. It was. Here's E-Boy, Pioneer. I picked one of these up, 618. Googly Grix, Pioneer of pixel art. 70, NBS Swit picking up 70, so people speculating on that here. So doing quite well, even, so $70, or maybe more, times 17 cents, let's call it $100. I guess we can just go right here. Okay, so 66 it says here, but that's probably not updated. Interesting. So, E-Boy, now on Rodeo. Interestingly, Kyle Flemmer, Inner Sanctum. So looks, I'm not sure if this is a work in progress or if it's finished. It looks pretty cool though. Love the incorporation of text, and even that white background on the text I find super interesting and just kind of cool. And kind of arty. And so what this looks like to me from a space perspective is that is Earth, and that looks like Mars, and this must be the asteroid belt, I'm assuming. Inner Sanctum, so cool work. Just looking at Santiago's comment there. Silva Santus, bait. Let me just do this. So this is on object. Help me, Buster, help me. So a Nintendo glitch ROM. And of course, Silva Santus has been working on these. This is an open edition, 420, 3 selling so far, and has been doing Nintendo glitch ROMs for, I want to say, as long as this show's been going. Maybe longer. Retro Manny Infinite. So cool work here. Let's actually get it to play. This was posted in the community. Thank you for posting that. So a cool just kind of loop here of what looks like Retro Man. Infinite Run featuring Retro Man edition of 25. Modeled and animated in Blender, effects and after compositing in After Effects. And offers are coming in. So that's pretty cool. So Manny doing quite well there on Object. Mascot Massacres. This is Kurt Hustle Collective. Let's play. Let us play and see if this works.
DB Sports presents Mascot Massacres. Every week, a round of winners and a round of funerals for those who missed the mark. Join us as we watch 2 mascots go head-to-head in the field. Watch these raging mad mascots get slaughtered.
My neighbors.
Only the winner can live to rally another day. Live on DB Sports Television. Mascot Massacres.
A beautiful glitching there. So the humor, the esotericness, the wonder, the greatness of the Kurt Hustle Collective edition of 10 for 10 Tezos each, just minted. Renki Onobori. So here we see some new work by Renki. I mean, Renki puts out work every day, I believe. Nice feedback here. Kind of nice textures on this one. Kind of a painterly Renki here. Nice, just one color. Red, or 2 colors, I guess, red and black. Edition of 1, not listed, which is usually the case. Here's Dave on Twitter. Getting a lot of, and I think, let me see if this works. I'm pretty sure this is animated. Might have internet issues. Here we go. So interesting kind of digital animated abstract, I guess is what you'd call this. Prominent account on Twitter, a lot of views there, a lot of support for that artist. Really interesting artist. Been showing their work for a while too. Here is John Cates. This is from December 18th. I was just looking at their profile, at his profile. I quite liked this one. So I wanted to show it, you know, just really original kind of glitching here. And unfortunately, or maybe perhaps appropriately, my own computer is glitching here. So here it is. Kind of a different kind of feel. Reminds me of that horse. I think John Cates sent me a horse once with just has its own kind of slippery glitch feel to it. Very cool edition of 1, and that was transferred to Wondermundo. And finally, an AI, Yuri J picked this one up. This is by No Hygiene, edition of 1. So there's the angel there, who we often see kind of crouching, and there are some cats on the shirt. So just another wild work selling for 15 Tezos to Yuri J. Here's another work by No Hygiene. This is on Twitter. 10 retweets, 38 likes. I mean, this is pretty good for how kind of challenging these works are. Birthing Center or Money Making. So more just kind of wild AI artworks from No Hygiene. And here is Neural Divine with a mysterious title here and just a textured landscape with a bit almost looking like a portal there. Edition of 5 and 3 selling. Maybe to Neural or listed on for 4 Tezos on Object. Here's Die with the Most Likes with a cool physical. Love the kind of white background here. I thought this work kind of worked really nicely. Around again, a nice piece from Die with the Most Likes, and that is your show, my friends. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, take care.